There are certainly a lot of benefits to minimalism, but this one just really caught me off guard. Well, hello friends, I'm Mary Beth with At What Cost, where simple living and deep faith go hand in hand. And while I certainly did not anticipate covering this topic here on the channel, at least not anytime soon, circumstances being what they are, well, here we are. So today we are talking all about minimalism and grief. As I'm sure many of you know, I lost my dad a few weeks ago, and it was something that was pretty unexpected. And so was the shift of how life would look, especially for my mom, moving forward without my dad. And this situation of losing a loved one, someone that's close to you, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or even a child, is actually pretty common. And I think there are a lot of ways that we know what to expect and what to anticipate when things like this happen. You know, there are practical things that happen, like making arrangements, calling your pastor. You may have family members that are coming into town, people who bring meals over, or people who just want to come and visit for a few hours. And ultimately, what it ends up meaning is that you have a lot of people in your home, which, apart from the grief and loss that happens when we lose a loved one, can sometimes be a pretty scary thing for people. If all of the sudden you have all of these people coming into your home, but your guest bedroom is kind of a dumping ground and you have dirty dishes scattered all over your kitchen, you haven't vacuumed in a couple of weeks because there's stuff piled up all over the floor, the stacks of paper are completely out of control on the kitchen island, this is a very different situation than telling a friend, why don't you come to my house Friday night for dinner? We can have some time to clean things up and get our act together, so to speak, that we just don't typically have when we're experiencing in real time the things that are happening around this particular loss. This is one of the areas that I experienced a kind of unexpected benefit of minimalism, specifically simplifying our home. Just having less to manage overall meant that when we were in those very few hours that are incredibly difficult, when your support system is coming alongside you, you have people in your home, people dropped off lunch. People were bringing dinner. We had friends come in from out of town. My brother came in from out of town. And I didn't have to think twice about the condition of my home. And it's easy for us on the outside of this, and when we're not in kind of the throes of that, to say, well, those things don't matter and I wouldn't be worried about them even if I was experiencing that. I would be fully engaged. But I think there are a few of us that know that that's not true. We've had difficult things happen, and we do know that we still are concerned about that one closet on the way to the restroom that we're praying no one opens the door to. Or maybe we aren't thinking about that. Maybe we are engaging with people and then they leave, and we look around and realize that they have just seen our home in the worst possible condition. So while it is easy to say that we wouldn't worry about those things if we were faced with these difficult situations, the fact remains that many of us still do. And it can add to the weight of the situation. Now, I'm not saying that you should clean your house up in the anticipation that you are going to have some terrible tragedy, but it was certainly an unexpected benefit for me and really motivation over the next several months to keep going further in my home, not just so that my home functions better, but that I can be available to others who are also experiencing grief and loss. If I'm running around trying to keep everything together at my own house, how would I ever be able to prepare a meal to take to someone else or forego some of my chores to go help someone else with theirs? The less I have to deal with, the more available I am to be able to help others and ultimately help myself. Now, there was another unexpected benefit of minimalism, but it wasn't my own minimalism. It was actually a more minimalistic lifestyle that my parents have engaged in over the last 2 years. So you may know, if you don't know the story, I will put some things in the description that can help kind of point you in the right direction. But my parents retired out of their 4-bedroom home into a 44-foot Class A motorhome, which is a very big difference. In the year leading up to their retirement, they pared down a majority of their belongings, which meant when they did retire, and even up to today, they live really with only the essentials. If they didn't have space for it, or if it didn't contribute to their daily life in a positive way, they didn't keep it. So in the weeks that have followed, as my mom is navigating all of the financial aspects of life that happens when you've lost your spouse, life insurance, VA benefits, all of the things, she hasn't been scrambling around, hunting through piles of paper, trying to find that elusive marriage certificate or social security card. With only a small amount of the most important items, she has been able to find the things that she needs quickly and easily, which have also allowed her to not have to spend quite as much time digging through everything while she is also experiencing grief and loss. From a faith perspective, I have felt a level of peace that I have not experienced before. There have been few barriers that stand in the way of me really connecting with God in those times when I need it most. I don't feel like a putz when people come over to our house. I've been available both emotionally and mentally to assist my mom with things that she may need help with, or have the difficult conversations with our kids about why things are happening and what we're going to do. These have been opportunities to really take a step back and share my faith with my kids rather than fluffing them off so that I can get to the next thing because I have all these things to do. I've really been able to take a step back and engage with them without everything else completely falling apart. And of course, I don't want to make light of grief. It is difficult. Loss is hard. And there can be a lot of emotion and grief and loss tangled up when we start to declutter belongings of another person that we've lost. There really can be some very strong emotional ties to the things that we have. And experiencing loss doesn't make that any easier to handle. I posted earlier on Instagram and on Facebook about these difficult situations that we find ourselves in. And I'm just going to read you a portion of it because I can't figure out a different way to say it. I used to think that when these difficult situations came into my life, that my life would be better on the other side of it. In other words, without it. That's the trap that we can fall into. If I had this, if I didn't have that, if I stopped doing this, or if someone else stopped doing that, then my life would be better. I used to think that an easier life meant a better life, and that a harder life meant a worse life. The problem has been that the hard things never stop coming to my doorstep. Even when I clear one thing up, something else difficult comes along. So I'll give you an example. So my dad passed away on a Wednesday. The following Wednesday, my son broke his arm. The following Wednesday, Wednesdays are not real good for us lately, we discovered that he had a last-minute doctor's appointment we didn't know about and ultimately had to have surgery the next day. So there are three things that even getting on the other side of it didn't make anything easier. So if an easier life isn't actually going to make it better, what does make our life better if we're going to continue to face hard things? Because we are. Well, you don't have to be around here long before you realize that for me, it's not a YouTube video or an Instagram post or a really beautiful worship song that actually makes life better. Those things are meaningless if they don't point us back to the one who is capable of carrying all of our burdens, and not just carrying these burdens, but carrying them with complete obedience, compassion, and love. The only thing that can make our life better is Jesus. He is the one who makes our unbearable things feel bearable. This is where I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength comes from. We really can bear all of the burdens of this life through Christ. We can lean into our relationship with Christ and know there is not one thing that happens outside of His control, His knowledge, and His goodness. God is offering an abundant life, a life that is unburdened by the trappings of this world, a life where we can find fellowship and connection with each other during some of the most difficult times that we will experience on this side of eternity. We can grieve the loss of those that we love, knowing that these are just momentary things on the eternal timeline, and that God is working all of these things together for our good and His glory. I know that there are difficult days ahead. I'm sure that there will be difficult days ahead for you as well. And my prayer is that you too can feel an increase in your faith as you learn to rely less on yourself and less on your stuff and more on Christ. I'm praying that others will be pointed to Christ because of the way that you are walking through these difficult times, and that you would run the race set before you, feeling that peace that passes understanding as you lean into your relationship with Jesus. Whether we are in the valley or on the mountain, we have cause to rejoice. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate each and every one of you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.